Hi. So it is a beautiful day here, and I wanted to welcome you to my outdoor yoga space. I've practiced here for several years now, and you might recognize this setting. It shows up on our website, and I wanted to show you what my darling honey did. I don't know if you can see this, but if you look at the ivy that's growing along the fence, and you look over here, you can see that that's an elephant's head, and he's tried to carve the elephant's trunk. It goes down like that. Can you see that? So he wanted to make it kind of like Ganesh for me because I have a couple Ganesh statues, and he knows I really identify sometimes with Ganesh energy. So I thought it'd be fun to share a yoga practice here today in this beautiful, beautiful setting and this beautiful, beautiful day. So I'm going to start seated on my folded blanket. If you'd prefer to be seated in a chair, then of course, it's important that when you come to your opening seat for your class, that your hip joints are higher than your knee joints. So if you can find that using blankets or blocks or something like that, this is fine. But if this is an awkward way to sit, don't hold yourself here thinking that you have to be yoga-like. Grab a chair, and I'm going to be using a chair perhaps other places in class today. So let's find a comfortable seat. Maybe close your eyes. Take a few deep breaths in and out through the nose and start to expand your connection with your breath. And draw a little inspiration from being in nature today and give a nod to the various elements that we work with in our world. So we're going to start with the earth element today. And being outside, I'm on concrete, but I can feel the sense of gravity and I can feel the solidity of the earth beneath me. So you might take now your sitting bones and root into that. And even if you're sitting on a chair, your feet are into the earth maybe. And you can really have your sitting bones pressed down towards the earth. The earth element is cool and solid and dependable and safe. So allowing those qualities. And then I'm going to start a little bit of movement from the seated position. And it doesn't have to be a big movement, and it doesn't have to look exactly like mine. But rolling a bit over onto your right sitting bone, rolling a bit to your left sitting bone. So this is a movement in the earth part of your body, in the pelvis, in the sitting bone area. So I'm rocking from side to side and just kind of creating a sense of connection through the sitting bones. And then maybe you start to roll forward on the sitting bones and back on the sitting bones. And just creating that movement and that massage across the sling of muscles that form your pelvic floor. Back and forth, side to side, finding your own rhythm. I mean, maybe you're doing a figure eight kind of movement over the sitting bones now, or an infinity symbol kind of thing. Whatever you're doing, if you're doing it in one direction, make sure you do it in the other direction too. So we're always seeking balance. Balance amongst right, left, up, down, and all of the elements. Beautiful. And then come to stillness, noticing your awareness of the sitting bone area is perhaps heightened. And I want to draw awareness to breathing at the tip of the nose if I can now. So feeling the air come in through the nostrils and out through the nostrils. And starting to connect the sensations of breath in my nostrils with sensations of movement in the pelvis. So you can do actual movement like we just did, or you can sit still. But notice as you inhale, a sense of spreading of the sitting bones, a sense of softening of the tissues in that area. And as you exhale, a sense of gathering of the sitting bones and a lifting up of energy, lifting up of the tissues in that area. So it's not really anything you're trying to do muscularly. This is a more subtle sort of approach, but there's a real massaging of energy, of awareness, in time with your breath. So on the inhale, sitting bones spreading and relaxing the tissues. Exhale, sitting bones gathering and lifting up in the tissues. One more breath like that. And then when you're ready, we're going to come to a standing position. So please let me adjust the computer so we can see each other a little bit better. There we go. And I'm going to move my props off my mat momentarily. There we go. So here I am standing in mountain pose. I'm allowing the feet to feel the earth element, and I'm allowing my body to surrender to the pull of gravity. As my body surrenders to the pull of gravity, I feel a rebound energy up the body like I was bouncing a basketball, and the rebound energy comes up and allows me to stand tall. So I'm of the earth, but emerging from it, growing, like the plants in your garden. And then when you're ready, let's come into a little bit of movement, Talasana. So you may choose to have a chair close by, the back of the chair like this, so that you have a little help with balance. You can hang on to it through this movement with one hand. If you don't need the chair, you can just leave it off to the side. So here we go. Inhale, come up onto the balls of the feet, and exhale, lower back down. Add the arms if you like. Inhale, come right up. Exhale, lower back down. So we're playing around with gravity, feeling the effects of the earth elements. Breath in and out through the nose, and an awareness of that breath rhythm, those breath sensations moving in the nose. Let's take the feet a little bit wider apart. I'm turning my legs out a little bit and bending at the knees. I want to make sure that my knees are pointing in the same direction as my toes, so that may involve dialing your feet a bit differently. And when I bend the knees, I don't want to bend really, really deep. I want to keep the bend so the knees are right over top of the ankles. And then let's come into a little bit of movement here. Inhale and exhale. On the inhale, feel the sitting bones widening, softening of the tissues. Exhale, lift everything back up. Sitting bones come a little closer together. So this might be a little bit different breathing rhythm than you sometimes use in this posture. Inhaling here, exhaling here. And then let's bring the feet a little closer together again, back into mountain pose. We're going to keep our focus on the earth element as we come into chair pose. So I'm going to just turn sideways, you're fine where you are, just so that you can kind of really see the angle of the body in chair pose. You can keep the hands on your hips here, you can keep hands at your heart, or you can keep arms up or in cactus arms. There's lots of different variations. Our focus is more this part of the body in chair pose today because we're talking about the earth element. So we're going to come into chair pose on an inhale. So when you're ready, inhale, bend the knees, send the hips back, feel the sitting bones move apart from each other, and then exhale, come back up to mountain pose. Inhale, push the hips back, feel the sitting bones spread apart, and then as you come back up on your exhale, drive through the heels, pull the belly muscles in. So we'll come into this a few more times. One of my teachers says a day without chair pose is a day without sunshine. When I come into the chair pose, my knees are pointing straight ahead over my toes, but I can see all of my foot. Last one. Very good. Let's take the feet a little wider apart. We're going to take our shift now to the water element. I don't know if you can see or hear my little water feature that I have back here, but it allows me to kind of connect to that second element that's a feature for us today. The fluidity, the liquidity, the cleansing properties, the healing properties of water. And now I'm going to take a little bit more emphasis to this part of the body. So rather than be in the pelvic floor area, I'm right around the hip bones. I'm going to take my legs fairly far apart, maybe a little further apart than they were in that first sequence. Turn the right leg away from the left leg, so the right toes are now facing the short edge of the mat. Let your right knee have any amount of bend that feels appropriate for you. Now, if coming into this position is difficult for hips or knees, take your left leg, step it forward and turn it in a little bit so you're at a little bit of an angle with your pelvis. That's perfectly fine if that makes your whole system feel more at ease. You're going to come in and out of triangle pose here, really focusing on this area of the body. So getting some fluidity, some liquidity into this area of the body. So when you're ready, inhale, lifting the arms out. Exhale, coming into triangle pose. Inhale, coming back up. And exhale, coming into triangle pose. Trying to make the breath fluid and smooth. Qualities of water. And we might choose to hold Trikonasana or the triangle pose and really bring the breath, if you can, into the belly here. So in the inhale, there's a sense of opening in here, and on the exhale, a sense of gathering in. So you're creating movement in the belly here. One more breath. And then looking down at your right foot, if that helps you to feel safer, coming back up, turning the feet parallel. Taking a breath in between sides. And then moving the left leg into position, knowing that the right leg might want to shift forward and in a little bit if that makes your body feel safer. And you can always have a little bend in the left knee. Inhale and exhale. Moving fluidly and smoothly. So this is not the time to do your deepest triangle pose or to really work on flexibility. This is a time to allow the natural element of water and we have that all through our constitution. I've read different statistics, I'm sure you have too, but we know that we have maybe 80% water, something like that, in our system. So as we move in and out of the posture, we're really helping to create sloshing around of that water in our system. The movement is so important. And then even when we decide to hold triangle pose, we're creating the movement through our breath. So focusing on lower belly breathing here. And then when you're ready, looking down at your left foot and coming back up and turning your feet square to each other. And then you might want to sit back down in your chair, or if it's comfortable for you to sit on a proper blanket as you were earlier, let's come into that. So it's better to sit on a chair than be slouched over in this position, because we're going to come into a little bit of rotational work in the spine. And anytime you rotate your spine, if it's not aligned in its natural curves, you create wear and tear in the spine. This can lead to arthritis and, well, downright dangerous consequences for osteoporosis. So you want to make sure that you're using the chair if sitting like this doesn't work that well for you. And then we're still working to churn around in the lower belly. So we're going to work on a version of twisting that really focuses here. So inhale, sit up really tall. Exhale, gather the muscles of the low belly. And when there's no more breath left, now twist. Relax, take an inhale, come back to center. Exhale, squeeze all the air out of the belly, then twist. So this is a really deep turning for the low belly. And last one to this side. And coming back to center, taking a breath in and out. Now, if you're using a chair, I would suggest you go back to that same twist that we just did. It's very similar energetically. If you are sitting on the ground, though, you might choose to kind of ramp that up a little bit. Stretch your legs out. Keep your right knee bent. And when we twist now, we're going to have actual physical contact between the thigh and the belly. So obviously if you were pregnant, you wouldn't want to do this. Or if you have a lot of wonderful feminine tissue here, you're not going to want to push too hard on breasts or belly. And if, again, you can't sit on the floor and maintain nice vertical alignment with your spine, you're going to use the chair and do the twist that we just did. But this is an option for people who don't have any of those other issues going on, none of those other, they just don't have those body types. So inhale, maybe you lift the left arm up, and then exhale, all air out of the belly, and then twist. And then we can take a couple breaths holding this twist. So if you're using the chair, just stay to one side and work the belly, like we did in triangle pose. So each inhale might see you sitting up a little taller. Each exhale might see you twisting slightly deeper. But there is probably some, if you're using this variation, some contact between the belly and the thigh. One more breath. And then we can slowly unwind and straighten our legs out. If you're in the chair, just take a moment, a full breath in the center position. And then if you're coming into this version of the twist with me, get your leg into place. Inhale and come into the twist after you've exhaled. So you come into the twist after you've exhaled. And our focus as we hold the twist to the second side is that movement of the belly towards the thigh, if you're using this version anyway. If you're using the chair version, it's like in triangle pose. You're just really trying to make the belly move as you breathe. Last big breath. And then we'll come back to the center position. So those of you who are using a chair, you're good to stay exactly where you are for our next focus. We're moving in to the fire element. And the fire element is concentrated just around or just above the navel. Believe it or not, I drink an entire thermos of this tea in the morning, and then again at night. It's red tea, rooibos tea, and you get it flavored in different things. And I sometimes don't drink the whole thermos, but I do like my tea. So we're going to come back into our seat. So it could be sitting in the chair if that's healthier for your spine, or if you're very comfortable here, it could be here. We're going to start working into the fire element. So we've worked with earth, water, and now fire. And today is a beautiful sunny day. You can probably see the light coming in here. And so that's how we can connect outside. If you're lucky enough to practice outdoors, connect with the fire element is the qualities of light around you. So when you're ready, we're going to sit up really, really quite tall if we can. And then inhale, lift up the right arm. Exhale, lean to the left. And we're going to go to this side a few times. Now, regardless of whether you're sitting in the chair or sitting on the ground, I want you to keep both sitting bones well grounded and really start focusing on this area of the body. So often we talk about the navel center, and you think this is all about the front of your body. But chakras, or energy centers, that reflect the influence of elements on our bodies, they're in the center of the spine, the center of the spinal channel. So they have a side and a back to them as well. Let's switch sides. So thinking about just below your ribs now on the left side, and feeling the side body lengthen and demobilized. This is a way for us to start stoking the fire. And then one more breath here. And I'm going to come over to be lengthwise on my mat. Now, because I'm working on a hard concrete, you might be working on a harder surface at home, I'm going to continue to use my blanket to cushion me. You may choose to do that as well if you're on a hardwood or something like that at home. So if you've been using your chair, just maybe come down onto the floor briefly. We're going to sit so that if I were to lie back, my spine would be nicely cushioned from anything hard. So we begin by sitting up nice and tall, and I'm trying to recreate natural curves in my back. So I don't want to be slouched out if I can help it. I would like to be able to have a really tall spine. And this is already a lot of work, just sitting up like this. All of these core muscles are being called into play. And then when you're ready, you can exhale, gather in those belly muscles. We've worked them quite a bit today. Keep your back in this alignment and lean back. So you're just opening the angle here a little bit. And then inhale, come back up. And notice I'm not allowing the back to change shape. I'm just exhaling, opening up the angle of the hips, and coming back. Now that's where you may choose to work. This is a lot of work. And you want to maintain really meticulous form here. You don't want to get sloppy. And anytime you need to take a break, you can just, stretch your back out like this and take a break. Now for some of you, you've been doing this kind of work longer. You might be ready as you lean back to lift up the feet from the floor. Again, you want to maintain that really long back. So as you exhale, lift one or both feet from the floor and keep the curves in your back. And then you can inhale, come back up, exhale back into what we call boat pose. Now, if this is going well, and you can choose any one of these options, if this is going well, you might decide to hold boat pose. And you might decide to inhale, stretch one leg out, and exhale, bend. I got some shake and bake going on. And then if this is going well, and you want a little bit more, you can inhale, open up the angle of the hips further, and exhale, come back. And I think that's enough for me. Time for a sip of tea. You might want to do a few more. But you do really want to maintain really good form. And now I think we have a lot of fire in the belly. I'm going to ask you to roll over on your belly. We're going to move into air element now. So there's a nice breeze here today, and I'm feeling the kiss of that air on my open skin. Us Canadians really long for that. It's a long time that we're indoors and we don't feel the benefits of sunshine and fresh air. So it's a beautiful day to be outside and connect with that element again. We're going to come into cobra pose. And let me show you something you can do if you don't care to be lying on your belly. You could come back to your chair. Let me just grab my chair so I can demonstrate. Have your chair something like this. Let me just switch my angle of my computer so you can see. Use the chair to help you find the grounding through the legs that we get when we're lying on the ground. And then when we do cobra pose, you can do a spinal extension, shoulder blades gathering to the spine, chest lifting, lots of air coming into the lungs. And then on the exhale, release. So it's a standing version of cobra pose, and the chair really helps you have that grounding. So let's move into the belly down position if that's available to you. Bring your hands into place for cobra pose. They're fairly, let me change the computer angle again, fairly low down on your body, close to the rib cage. Spread your fingers. Anchor your legs into the floor, your pelvis into the floor, and as you inhale, air element now, like balloons inflating in your lungs, float up from the ground, and exhale, lower down. So the breathing pattern is the same regardless of whether you're working with the chair or you're doing a more traditional version of the posture. We're really focusing on openness in the chest, expansion of the lungs. We want to really airy. Let's do two more. And then you might bring the hands forward to cushion your forehead or sit in your chair if that's better for you and just rest for a moment. And then let's come to table pose. So if you're using your chair, you can have your hands on the chair, and that way you don't have to bring your knees to the ground if you prefer not to. Otherwise, if you're doing a traditional table pose like me, I would use maybe a blanket under the knees. So you can have your hands on the chair, feet on the floor, or knees on the ground, hands on the ground. We're going to come into some simple cat-cow movements, really thinking about the heart center or the air element. As you inhale, feel the chest push away from the floor and drive forward through the arms. And as you exhale, really separate the shoulder blades and stretch behind the heart and lungs. As you inhale, inflate. Really bring that lovely air in. And exhale, as you expel the old air, really think about letting the back of the heart and lungs be really cleansed. Use the flow of your breath to really open up the space around the heart and around the lungs. Remember, these energy centers are three-dimensional, so they have a side and they have a back. And then next time you exhale, you might choose to press your hips all the way back. Allow yourself to melt the heart towards the ground. Now, if you're using a chair, you're in a modified down dog, but we can still think about letting the space around the heart melt towards the earth. Take another nice deep breath. And then we'll come down to the floor as we look at the final element, which is space. So air is the wind I see moving the laundry on the line or the leaves on the plants. Space is where we exist. Space is the potential of all these other elements to create water or plant growth. If we don't have space, you don't have any of this beautiful manifestation. So now we're going to work with the space element. It's a little bit harder. It's not as tangible to grasp because it's a bit more philosophical, I guess. But let's see what we can do. I'm using the blanket to cushion underneath my spine. You might want to do that too. I'm going to come to lie down with my knees bent, feet on the floor. I'm going to do a little bit of a version of bridge pose that involves taking the arms behind my back. If that's uncomfortable for you, you don't have to do the arm movement. You can just keep the arms here. And if your arm doesn't touch the floor behind you, you can grab a blanket or some sort of block or something to kind of make it so that when your arm comes back, it's got some support. So you can take a moment to kind of test out that and see what's going to happen there. I'm going to start with my left arm. Inhale, lift the hips, lift the arm. And exhale, lower hips and arm together. Do that for 2 more breaths. And then this time I'm going to inhale, lift the hips, lift the arm, leave the arm there as the hips lower down on their own. What I'm doing here is I'm seeking to create some more space. You'll feel the neck in particular have a little bit more massage in this particular version. And then we can let the arm come down with the hips. We'll just take a moment, take some space. Just feel the effects of that. And then we can move to the right arm. Ready? Inhaling. And exhaling. 2 more times like that. And then the next time I inhale, I'm going to lift up and leave my arm back there as I continue my bridge pose. What I'm trying to do here is move slowly enough, give myself enough space to feel different things, to feel more subtleties to the posture. One more breath like that. And then on the next exhale, I'll lower the arm with my hips. And then just taking a moment to feel that space. Now, a nice posture to insert at this point would be fish pose. I'll briefly demonstrate that in a moment. But here's an alternative that's more accessible for most of us and safe even if you're not sure how happy your neck is today. So if you bring your hands really close into the ribs, it's like I'm holding a beach ball over my rib cage. Press down through the elbows really, really firmly, and then just puff my chest out as I inhale. See how I really puff the chest up? And then exhale, lower down. I'm not lifting my head up from the floor. It's just rolling on the blanket a little bit. So that's what you could do. It might be the safest thing to do. But if you're not sure what fish pose means, and then you see this and you're, oh yeah, like I know that pose, I could do that pose. So this is a more traditional version of fish pose. Notice I didn't lift my head while I was getting into the pose. And then coming out of the pose, I still don't lift my head. But fish pose isn't a good idea if you have any cervical spine issues or if you have a tendency towards a lot of headaches. So this version is maybe the one you want to do. Let's take one more breath. And then releasing. So we've honored the earth, the water, the fire, the air, and the space element in our practice today. Let's gently bring the knees in towards the chest. And do a little bit of weaving of all of these elements together. So I'm doing some knee circles. There might be another movement that just seems to really make sense to you right now, and that's maybe what you want to do. If you're like me and you're doing circles, you want to do them in both directions. And this is meant to tie all these elements, to balance all these elements. Honor our root to the crown. Beautiful. And then a couple different options here. You can do a traditional Shavasana. You can do legs into cobbler's pose. You may want to have pillows or blocks underneath your knees. You'll feel much more relaxed if you do that. And let's just take a little time to absorb the ripples created by our practice. And while we're in this relaxed position, you could be in the bound angle pose or cobbler's legs. I found straight legs felt much better for me today because I don't have enough props outside. Let's draw awareness to our breath again. It's just like we did at the very beginning, feeling the breath move in and out through the nose. And as you inhale, feel the breath enter the nose, move down through the throat, open the chest, open the belly, soften the pelvic floor. And as you exhale, feel the energy of the breath sweep back up and move out the nose. With your attention to the rhythms of breath in your body, you are coordinating and weaving together the effect of the elements on your life. It's as simple as that. You are welcome to stay with this breath meditation in your relaxed pose as long as you can. But I guess I better go water my garden. So I'm going to start to wiggle and jiggle just a little bit. And prepare to come back to a comfortable seat. Finish our practice today with a little chanting that kind of honors the elements. So this uses the Gayatri mantra, and the Gayatri mantra honors each one of the energy centers in the body, the elements, and asks for light or illumination to come to all of these places within us and bring us true healing. And you can even ask for this healing to be extended out into your natural environment. Because when Mother Nature is happy, we're happy. Ready? Om Bhur, Om Bhuvaha, Om Swaha, Om Maha, Om Janaha, Om Tapaha, Om Satyam, Om Tatsavitur Varaniyam Bhargo Devasya Dinahi Yo yo naha prachodayat Om asatoma satgamaya Tomasoma jyotir gamaya Mrichorma amritam gamaya Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Until we practice again, my friends. Namaste. Enjoy this beautiful day.